Hello, 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 hello. You're with Anne and Nick. Keep saying hello because I think, Nick, you were doing something a bit odd there. What are you doing?
Yes, I just got a text from Chris Biggins, who we're talking to later.
Oh, I see. Oh, brilliant. That's very old tech, that holding something up to the screen.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, but that is us, isn't it? We are very old.
It is very complicated, this business. Anyway, how are you? What's your last week been like?
Yeah, absolutely fine. Thank you very much. Had a very busy few days, lots of gardening and lots of walking, but still, yeah. But the big news today has to be about Boris, doesn't it, really? That we've seen him again.
Well, yes, it was funny because we were lined up, weren't we, to do Good Morning Britain with Piers and Susanna this morning. And there we were waiting to go on air, and I could see them putting a podium outside number 10 Downing Street, and I thought, hey, we're going to get shoved to one side, and sure enough, in the end, we were, weren't we?
However, we're on again tomorrow, 8:45.
Yes. Have you told Boris not to come out and do anything?
Absolutely. Well, he texted me to apologise first of all. And
quite right too.
Boris, we understand he's got quite things to think about. So yeah, 8:45 tomorrow with Piers and Susanna on Good Morning, programme that we once presented in a slightly different guise.
Yes, it did look a bit different.
Years.
How many years ago?
Nearly 40, isn't it? 37. I know, it's a shocker, isn't it?
Okay, well,
what have you been doing anyway?
Gardening, and I'm digitising all my photos and videos and things. So I've come up with a few. Actually, that leads me into what I think we should talk about next, because how can we go through a programme without paying some sort of tribute to Lynn Faulds, who was, of course, one of our original team back then.
Absolutely, yeah. She was such a good friend and colleague, wasn't she? And a terrific journalist, pioneering really.
Yes, she was.
Half of consumers. And yeah, I would say she was just about there from day one in 1983. Joined later in that year by her husband, of course, John Stapleton. But yeah, bless her, we loved Lynn, didn't we? It was a great pleasure to
really did. I mean, it's just the most tragic news. But you see, there I was digitising all these old VHS cassettes, put them through a gizmo, and I get out a sort of digitised content. And I found this little tiny clip of Lynn doing her thing as a consumer journalist, and in that funny way that she did, with that sort of wry Scottish smile of hers. And it's this tiny clip, but if you can hear it, she's talking about bendy cucumbers.
Go on then.
See if we can find the clip for you. Have a look at this. It's coming
soon.
Lovely clip of her. And here we go. And can we hear her?
Well, we do know she's talking about very strange shaped cucumber.
I don't think we can hear her, can we?
Oh, what a pity.
But she was going, sorry, it's probably the way I digitised it. But she was going, well, these bendy cucumbers, they're much cheaper, than the straight ones. And she was saying, I don't know why the cameramen are laughing at me. Of course, she absolutely did know.
They're all weeping, weren't they?
She is a real loss, Lynn. Your heart bleeds for John and her son Nick.
I spoke to John yesterday, actually, and obviously absolutely devastated and stunned by the speed of it all. Thursday night was a normal evening. She was out there clapping the NHS workers.
I know.
Many of us were, and she had a stroke within a couple of hours. And next day, bless her, she's gone. And it just, it's hard to take in. And John is obviously stunned, and his son Nick. Luckily,
one day when we can all come out of hiding, we'll have to do a jolly good tribute memorial sort of thing for her, because so many broadcasters will want to have their say about Lynn, won't they?
I couldn't agree more, yeah. Bless her. Lynn Foldswood, long remembered she will be.
Now, we have a special guest today who must, like us, be very frustrated that he's not actually, really in the mix of things at the moment. He's an extraordinary character. We've met him so many times over the years in different guises, actually. Let us welcome, if we can, and bring into the mix, Alastair Campbell. Woo!
Hopefully. Suddenly go bing, and there he is.
Pressing all the right buttons.
Is he?
Jolly good.
Are we going to hear him? Alastair Campbell.
Oh, yeah.
Have you got him?
Here, yeah.
Oh,
there you are. Jolly good.
Just back from bagpipe practice.
No, I'm doing that later.
As long as you don't do it now, because we've got a very nervous cat, Alastair.
Okay, don't worry. Don't worry.
How are you anyway?
Yeah, how's lockdown for you?
Huh?
How is lockdown for you?
It's not been bad actually. I've been in it for 6 weeks because I did sport relief in Manchester 6 weeks ago, and I sort of felt this was not good. I kind of was really worried the government was behind the curve. I do quite a lot of work with different governments in different parts of the world, and they were all absolutely, they could not believe the approach we were taking. They'd all gone into lockdown, pretty much, I think every one of them, if not then, pretty soon thereafter. And one of them in particular, the Prime Minister of Albania, Edi Rama, who knows me really well, and he said, look, you're an asthmatic, you've got your mental health stuff. I honestly think you should take this more seriously than your government is. So I've been in it 6 weeks, and it's weird. I mean, I've had one bad spell in the middle, but I probably would have had that anyway. I've been massively productive in terms of writing. I've been writing so much; it's been ridiculous. I've invented this. My kids think I'm insane, but there you go. I'm absolutely determined, in the absence of competitive sport, we're going to have the Tree Olympics. And so
I've noticed this, your tree thing. Where did that come from? What's it all about?
Well, I've always had a bit of a tree thing, but it's definitely come into its own. Trees and birdsong have definitely come into their own. And the tree thing, so I'm posting these pictures every day of my tree of the day, and I'm just getting inundated with people's trees.
Yes.
I mean, I can't tell you.
Well, it could really take off from little acorns, you know.
Exactly. Well, listen, if you think about it, how did the Olympics start? How did the Paralympics start?
Totally, absolutely. They all have to grow, don't they? They have to find their own niche.
I reckon look here, you people in TV, right? I'm not really into TV the same way as you are, right? Here's my idea. Every country in the world has a kind of like Britain's favorite tree, France's favorite tree, Afghanistan's favorite tree, right? And we have different categories. And then the final, each country, like they qualify for Eurovision, you have your big tree night on telly, and then you get your winner, and that goes through to the world tree, the World Olympics.
Oh, yes.
What would our top tree be, Alastair? British tree.
Say again?
What would the top British tree be, in your opinion?
Well, it would be down to the public to decide. I mean, most of my favourite trees are either in Scotland or on Hampstead Heath, which is not far from here. And there've been some, but honestly, some of the pictures I've been sent are unbelievable. So I reckon to find, so people could vote, and then we'd decide what our greatest tree was, and then off we go to the World Championship.
I'm totally with you on that. I love trees. Have you seen the bicycle trees?
Where are they?
I've got it. Well, there are several, but there was meant to be one original one somewhere in Britain, I think, or maybe Ireland, that a boy going off to the war, I don't know which war, had parked his bicycle by the tree and then gone off, and he never came back. And the tree grew around it. And but there are, if you actually Google bicycle trees, because it got me interested, there are bicycle trees all over the world.
I'll tell you what, though, if you look on Twitter, I'm going to post a picture today of a tree that I've been sent, and I think she might have got it off the internet, because she won't tell me where it is. But it's so incredible. I'm going to post a picture. It's incredible.
Good.
Alastair, I presume you're not alone in this isolation, are you?
No, I've got Fiona, my partner.
Yeah.
And also I've got our daughter Grace, who decided that the fridge was better stocked here than anywhere else.
Because for a lot of people, being alone, totally alone, must be a real strain on the old mental health, don't you think?
Oh, well, I'll tell you what I think would be worse, or could be worse, is being in lockdown with a partner or a family that you don't like.
Yeah.
Or a partner that's beating you up. I mean, that is what really worries me. And I saw the figures put out today for rise in domestic violence is pretty grim.
It really is.
Yeah, I think the isolation thing is really, really tough. And bear in mind that loneliness for a lot of people is a big problem, regardless of this going on.
Ongoing, yeah. And do you sort of yearn at the moment to be inside number 10 at the centre of it all?
Do I yearn? I think a part of me does, because I've been losing the will to live watching some of these government briefings.
I quite agree.
I think they've been terrible. And also I know that the media and the Tory media are trying to portray this idea, oh, Johnson's back, it's all going to be great. He caused a lot of the problems that they're now dealing with these very cavalier attitudes. I've written a piece this morning for the article where I basically say that, yes, he's got energy, yes, he's got drive, yes, he's got enthusiasm and optimism, I'll give him that. But I really do think that how today you could describe it as a success story.
Not yet. Hopefully it will be.
Hospital and plenty more in care homes. It's awful.
Yeah, but it's an unprecedented situation. Very, very difficult, isn't it, to make a judgment?
I do, yeah, but I think it is very, very difficult. But at the same time, I think one of the reasons we're in this bigger scale of mess as we are is because at the start, he was very, very slow to take it seriously. I talked about me, voluntarily going into lockdown after the sport relief. He was going to rugby matches and waving his arms around and talking about shaking hands in hospitals way after that.
In your article this morning, Alastair, you talked about maybe what he should do is form a think tank of all the former prime ministers. And there are 5 prime ministers who, do you think they would get on well enough to actually form a think tank to help him?
What I was actually suggesting, and I don't believe for one second he would do this, but I really think it would help, is that, look, if you think about the 5, and whatever you think of their politics, okay, Tony Blair, a lot of experience, Gordon Brown, experience of the global crash, Cameron and May, and John Major, who I got to know a lot better during the whole Brexit debate.
Yeah.
Whatever you think about them, massive experience, probably never going to stand for election again, nothing to prove really. And I think that the suggestion I was making is not that he brings them back as a group, but that he takes all of these different challenges that people are facing, such as testing, PPE, business, care homes, and actually puts ministers in charge of it, but then has experts alongside them who know about those issues, and then maybe just as a kind of mentoring, advising figure, at least uses the prime ministers. I think it's just a waste that they're sitting there, probably like me, watching these briefings and going, oh my God.
And tell me this, Alastair, when you're in government or involved in Number 10, are you consciously aware that there is the remote possibility that one day a pandemic might be coming? Do you think about that?
You do, and there are constant, there's planning going on. Do you think about it in terms of this might happen soon? No. But are there systems in place? You should get Philip Lee the MP onto your programme, because he was part of the last pandemic planning group. And I think one of the things he's been saying is that there are plans there which weren't activated. No, you don't necessarily think this is going to happen anytime soon. And I also think we in the West, we in the advanced democracies, call it what you want, I think we often think this is stuff that's going to happen to the rest of the world. SARS and Ebola.
Yeah. Third world problem.
It's going to be over there. And that's what's really been different about this one. So no, you don't necessarily think that, but listen, stuff's going to happen that you don't expect.
And as a matter of interest, what do you like on conspiracy theories, or how do you think it started? Do you think it was an accident in a lab and it's just been covered up?
No, I don't. I really don't. I'm really not a big conspiracy. Look, there are conspiracies go on, and there's no doubt at all that, we know a fair amount about what the Russians do in terms of, disinformation is part of a conspiracy if you think about it, and they do an awful lot of that. But no, I don't buy that. Put it this way: short of any evidence that tells me that, I don't buy that. And
do you think the Chinese could have stamped on it sooner and told us about it sooner? For sure.
But they definitely could. But you've got to remember that they have decades-long experience of kind of being like that. They've actually been far more open than they were about previous health problems that they faced, which did have an impact in the outside world. So yeah, for sure they could have done that. But no, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist. This 5G thing, that does my head in as well.
Yeah. Can I ask you
That's the
something?
right phrase. It does you ready.
Yeah.
Before we lose you, Alastair, I want to go a bit lighter and just ask you, because you've been at the forefront of things for such a long time, but as a journalist and when you're in Number 10 and since, who is the coolest person you've ever met? The person you met who just you had to pinch yourself. There must be one.
The coolest.
Yeah, somebody who absolutely puts shivers down your spine, and I'll allow it to be a sportsman.
Element of hero worship here.
Okay, well, shivers down your spine. Mandela, definitely.
Yeah.
First time I ever met her, Princess Diana.
Yeah.
That was more than shivers. That was frisson.
We were the same, by the way.
I met Muhammad very briefly when I was a student. I met Muhammad Ali. That was pretty.
Yeah.
And then the one that I talk about every single day is playing football with Diego Maradona.
You did?
I did.
I tell you
How
what.
did that happen?
I commentated on Maradona in the 1982 World Cup in Spain for ITV, and he was really very young and not very well known there. And I thought at that moment, this is the best player in the world. He was
yeah. Well, even now, that's my shirt over there that I wore.
Yeah, I saw it.
Right. Well, that is, and I don't have many pictures. I've got a couple of Clinton, and I've got but I'm not big on this sort of celeb picture thing. But Maradona's all over the house.
I think I can beat both of you, because there was one morning on the original Good Morning Britain when Nick was off, funnily enough, he had the day off. I had George Best, Jimmy Greaves and Pele on the same sofa.
Okay, well, I've played with Pele.
Have you?
As well. And he did not do it. Good. He did not do it to me in the same way that Maradona did.
No.
No, Maradona was the one that absolutely set me alight. So yeah, I'm going to go for them, I think. That's not bad, is it? Mandela, Maradona, Muhammad Ali, and Princess Diana.
That would make a very good dining table, wouldn't it?
Alice, I must ask you about, when we're talking about big characters, big figures, you worked closely, I think, in your time with Robert Maxwell, didn't you?
I did.
We interviewed quite a few times. My goodness, he was a presence, wasn't he?
He was, and he was a presence. Who does he remind me of in the modern era? I mean, because he wasn't as, I don't think he was as clever as Murdoch and as I didn't think he was too transparent for what I think he was trying to achieve. And I think towards the end, I think he did become mentally unwell. I think he was unhinged, incredibly paranoid.
So was he therefore you saying what he did wasn't criminal with the pension funds and so on?
Oh, I think it was criminal.
It was criminal.
No, I think it was criminal, and but I think it was. I think he got into a state of absolute sort of desperation, and he was a bit like Trump. He was without doubt a narcissist. He, the world around him. It was his world. In fact, I mentioned Mandela. The first time I met Mandela was with Maxwell, because Maxwell, I was still on the Mirror, and Dick Caborn, who was an MP big in the anti-apartheid movement, he asked if I could persuade Maxwell to sponsor the concert at Wembley for Mandela. So Maxwell sort of said he would, provided that Mandela came and had lunch with him. So Mandela, they sent Maxwell's helicopter pick up. Maxwell was the only person allowed to land his helicopter in that bit of the city. He picked up Mandela, comes in by helicopter. We're going for lunch, and we sat there. I was just mesmerised by Mandela. Most people were. He wasn't long out of jail.
Yeah,
it was his first visit to London, and Maxwell literally said these words. He said to him, "Nelson, you've been away for a long time, and you're going to have to do something very few people are called upon to do. That's negotiate the future of your people." And I thought, as you have been away for so long, and I have such enormous experience of negotiation, I should perhaps give you a few tips about negotiation. Wait a minute, it gets worse, He said, "Nelson, the single most important quality you require in negotiation is patience." And Mandela, to his credit, just sat there and looked at it. Eventually he said, "Bob, I think I know a thing or two." about patience.
Years in prison, crikey.
Oh my goodness.
But Maxwell, the other thing on football, Nick, when he owned Oxford United and he was travelling around the world, you couldn't do this now because you can just look at your phone. He would phone in every Saturday night from wherever he was in the world and say, how did Oxford United get on? And the sports desk got so fed up with it if they lost. But they used to tell him they won 3-1 every week.
How to keep a man happy.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to leave it there. It's a joy to talk to you. It really is.
Can I take a picture?
Yeah.
Taking a picture.
Oh, great. Well, thank you for being on our little programme.
Pleasure.
Who would have thought?
Love it.
Who would have thought?
And good luck to Burnley if we ever get going again.
Well, I think it's going to be a while, and I think it's going to be a while till we get proper football with crowds and all that.
I'd be nervous about being in a big crowd.
I think I would. I think it's going to be a very, very slow haul back. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we've got to be patient, haven't we? Like Nelson Mandela.
Indeed. Well, as long as we don't wait 27 years for a football match.
Yes.
Yeah, that is just fantastic. Alastair, thank you very much. It's lovely to talk to you.
Thank you so much. It's great to talk to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, gosh. How lovely.
That's a great line from Maxwell.
It's appalling, isn't it?
Telling Nelson Mandela to be patient.
To be patient.
And in the history of the world, virtually.
Yeah.
Crazy. I think we've got another guest, haven't we, lined up?
I think, not yet, apparently. I don't think he's ready yet. We're waiting to join him. But it's interesting hearing Alastair talking about prime ministers and people he's worked with, because we saw a picture there of us two talking to John Major. But I think we've probably interviewed all of them, haven't we?
Certainly between us. I've interviewed 7, I think, past and present, going back to Harold Wilson. I remember interviewing Harold Wilson one afternoon, a pre-record at TVAM, so it must have been.
Oh yes, he did used to come in, didn't he?
Yeah, and that was amazing because it goes back a long, long way now, especially as you but yes, David Cameron, Ted Heath used to come in quite a lot, didn't he, to TVAM?
Yeah, yes, he did, yeah.
There is a little-known MP.
Who? Tony Blair. That's right, because in the first hour of TVAM in those days, we used to do the first hour as well. It was a long programme. We used to get various MPs, usually backbench MPs of one sort or another, in to review the newspapers in the first hour. And Tony Blair was definitely one of them. So was Paddy Ashdown, actually.
Yes, I was going to think that. Yeah, dear old Paddy Ashdown. And then in later years, at both at TVM and in Anne and Nick in the 90s, Margaret Thatcher, John Major, Tony Blair again.
Yeah.
We've seen quite a few, haven't we? Jim Callaghan, I remember doing at one stage many moons ago.
Yes.
David Cameron in recent years, and I've done more than once. And you've interviewed Theresa May, who I've never met.
I interviewed Theresa May, yes. We did an outside broadcast for BBC Radio Berkshire, and we did it from somewhere in Bray. And of course, a lot of people live in Bray, and Michael Parkinson lived just around the corner, so he came into it as well. But she was lovely, and she's still MP for Maidenhead there. She was lovely then, yeah. So we've been through a fair few of them, haven't we?
Yeah, what's always fascinating is the amount of sort of directors of communications, such as Alastair, who come along, and all the security and people looking about 18 different ways at once.
Yes.
And they suss it out beforehand as well, don't they? I mean, whenever we have sort of prime ministers and we know they're coming to our building to be interviewed, there's a major sort of checking out goes on by security people.
And they scare you to death. And they sort of say that the Prime Minister won't be answering questions on this and won't do this and won't do that. But when you actually get to sit down to them one-to-one, and I'll never forget how you do it, is you always mention how their football team did last night. And it grounds them straight away. They suddenly realise you're a friend. I don't know how you always manage to do it.
Sport is a fantastic unifying factor. If you're talking to someone.
It's a leveller.
Yeah, straight away. And talking about that, do you remember when we had one of the great cricketers of all time, Clive Lloyd, on the programme?
Yes,
and you weren't too clued up on cricket. So after I chatted about cricket for a while, you came in with the killer question, which was,
aren't you tall? How tall are you? I think, because he looked as though he was about 7'1".
Yeah,
he was amazingly tall, wasn't he?
Yes,
to give
he was.
Credit, he was very, very tall.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was an insightful question, because it was the sort of question that people at home would have wanted to ask.
Yeah,
That's what I always fell back on.
Any news of our next guest?
Yes, I think he's lined up and raring to go. He is, as you said earlier to me, from politics to panto, you could say, the one and only Christopher Biggins. Where is he, Christopher?
Biggins.
How are you both? How lovely to see you.
Oh, how lovely to see you.
Sir.
There was a bit of a problem earlier because I've only just this minute locked out. I've been waiting since 3, and I think something went wrong. But anyway, how lovely you look.
Oh, I'm glad you're patient. Thank you very, very much. And you look lovely too.
Serious
to encourage the sun.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you in a floral shirt, or are you still in your gym jams?
No, there's a floral shirt. How dare you?
Well, I'm sorry, I can't see a lot of it.
Oh, well, I'll move forward. Look.
Oh, hairy chest and all.
How are you getting on with lockdown, Chris?
Well, actually, Nick, I'm rather enjoying it. Now, ask me the same question in August, and I probably have a different answer.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's lovely. I mean, being a very gregarious sort of person, we're always out. I'm actually saving money by staying in. I mean, there's no restaurant bills. I mean, there's no going to the theatre bills. There's no going to the cinema. There's no going to cocktail bars. So it's marvelous, and I'm really enjoying it. My partner, Neil, who is fantastic, is a wonderful cook. So we're eating very, very well. The trouble is, yes, Annie, you were going to say something?
I was going to say, that's my trouble. I can't stop eating. I'm eating for England.
No, I know, it's terrible. And last night he made the most delicious risotto, a pea risotto, which was fantastic. But what we tend to do is we tend to go to eat late, go to bed late, and get up late. So, like, for instance, we'll have breakfast at lunchtime, and then we do a lovely afternoon tea, which we rather like, you know, a nice sandwich. And then it's time for dinner, but then it's late, and then it's time for bed. The day just flies by.
Yes, I know. How did we find the time to go anywhere and do anything?
God knows.
Tell me this, Chris, you must have loads of friends, including yourself, who are out of work at this moment because the theatres are all dark.
Yes, I mean, it's terrible. I've personally lost about 30 jobs, which has, you know, not been good. As you can
Serious? 30?
30 jobs, yes. I mean, and then some of them have been rescheduled for end of the year, but I mean, I don't think anything's going to happen. I think the saddest thing was when they did close the theatres, the young actors in all the musicals and plays and everything, who normally would, when they were out of work, would go and work in a restaurant.
Yes.
Or a coffee bar. There was nothing for them. And so there is nothing for those people. I mean, it's terrible. And I feel very sorry. And I know a lot of my younger friends who are in that position are finding it very, very difficult.
Were you due to do panto this year?
I was going to Dartford to do Jack and the Beanstalk, which I will not be giving of my Dame, I don't think. I really don't. Because for a start, I've talked to my producers at Kudos, and we're all of the same opinion, is that it's first of all, do I want to go to a theatre and appear with 1,500 people sneezing and coughing at me when we're not quite sure what's going to happen?
No.
I mean, unless they find a vaccine or something that a tablet we can take, then it's going to be very difficult. Also, will people want to go to the sit in an auditorium is another matter. And also, will they have the money to pay to go?
Well, that's true. Yeah. I think
so the panto's cancelled,
aren't we? No, not cancelled. It's still advertised, and there's obviously the theatre's not open, so no bookings are taken. We've done.
It's devastating for the theatres as well, isn't it? Irrespective of the people.
Oh, terrible. I mean, everybody is affected. I mean, you know, my friend Cameron McIntosh is losing about £50 million, you know, because he's got so many theatres and productions all over the world. So it's a very difficult time for everybody.
It's not as if it was a steady decline. It was an absolute bang, guillotine, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And in fact, funnily enough, because of that, you say a guillotine coming down, we're all in the same boat. So it actually it helps.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It doesn't. It's not as though it's just us three who are being you know, in this situation. Everybody is going to be in this situation.
And we have no idea how long it's going to go on for and how it will end. As you said, will there be a vaccine? We've had our confidence knocked. You're quite right. I wouldn't want to go and be the first people to sit in a theatre at the moment.
No,
even if they said it was safe.
I went to the theatre 3 weeks before the lockdown, to see a play in the West End, and there were people coughing and sneezing then, and you thought, not even thinking about what was going to happen, you thought, oh my goodness, I might get a cold. So you know, sort of looking away and things, you know, it was awful.
Chris, let's look at some of the incredible things you've done in the past. What about the jungle? You must still think about that. I think occasionally have a nightmare, don't you?
Well, I'm looking at Anne now, and I see a pot plant in the back, and I feel I'm in the jungle anyway. Funny enough, I loved the jungle. I mean, it was one of the most wonderful experiences, and I've had a very varied career for a very long time. And people say to me, "What's your highlight?" And my highlight of my career is I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. I mean, also the fact that I won it was so fantastic.
I know. Do you think people expected you to be a bit of a precious lovey?
I think they did, and I think the wonderful thing is, the secret of that show is you have to be yourself, and if you're not yourself, you get caught out immediately.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know a lot of people who go in there and act, and they forget, and they don't know where they are or who they are or what they are, and they fall at the first furlong.
Yeah, funnily enough, you say that, Chris, and we Anne and I have always said that about when we're doing breakfast television, 3.5 hours live television every day. You have to be yourself. You cannot be acting. But anyway, beyond that, the things you had to put in your mouth in the jungle, terrifying.
Yes. Well, I've had worse things in my mouth, Nick.
Oh, Chris.
So
perhaps we can skip that for a minute, Anne.
Yes, I mean, I did have to have in the eating sequence. I had a witchetty grub, which was about that long, and it was still alive.
Oh.
And Bob, the doctor, who is the most fantastic man, he whispers into your ear, "Don't eat the head." So you have to bite off before the head. So you put it in your mouth alive, bite it off, and then eat it. That was quite cheesy in flavour, quite interesting, because the Aborigines eat them on a regular basis.
They're meant to be good for you.
Very good. Oh, look at it. Yes, there he is. Look, marvellous. You've got some very good technicians working on this show. Excellent. I'm very impressed. Then I had 3 live cockroaches, and as I bit into one, the other 2 were running around in my mouth. Then I had a crocodile's hand, which I had to eat an inch round the top, and that's the first time I gagged. And then I had the kangaroo's penis, and that's when I said that I'd had worse things in my mouth. And I amazingly put that in. And then I had the kangaroo's bollock, and then as I bit into that, all this liquid exploded into my mouth, and then I had to chew the sack and get rid of it all. And 9 months later, I gave birth to a Joey. I mean, it was amazing.
I mean, that's what I mean. If anyone who thought you were a lovey, maybe years of treading the boards and doing your thing, and I don't know, maybe that hardens you, but you were made of far sterner stuff than people thought.
Well, it was fascinating, and I really, really loved it. I mean, you know, the game that the last 5 people play, where they throw water at you and balls and wind and everything, was so funny. I can't tell you. I had the awful Janice Dickinson in my year, that American model, who's an absolute nightmare, horrible woman. Anyway, I remember I was the first to get to my star point, and I had my 5 stars, and then Janice Dickinson came up from behind, and she looked like she was in a film playing Goblin or something. What was that film? Gollum.
Oh, Gollum,
Gollum. It looked like, because she was covered in rain and water, and she was things. It was disgusting, and it made me laugh so much, because that's exactly what she deserved.
Something else, Chris. Oh, sorry, Annie. Just quickly. Porridge, Ronnie Barker.
Oh, yes.
That must have been.
Well, it was fantastic. And I always say about Ronnie Barker, which I really do believe to this day, was that he was not a comedian. He was a comedy actor. And I think the joy of Ronnie Barker was that if he felt one of his lines by Dick Clement and Ian and Friendly was better said by me or another character, he would give it, because he had a generosity, because he saw the whole show. It wasn't just him. And I think a lot of comedians fall foul because they think they want every laugh and they just take everything. Whereas Ronnie Barker was just wonderful.
Look at that
picture. It was great. And of course, there's Richard Beckinsale, who was, what a tragedy that was.
Yes.
When he died. I mean, if he'd been alive now, he'd been would be such a huge star all over the world.
Yes,
He was fantastic.
yes.
And Sam Kelly, who was wonderful. There are not many of us left, you know.
No, I was wondering how you're keeping in touch with your friends, because you're famous for having so many showbiz friends and people. Are you keeping in touch with them this way? Are you video calling
Yes,
them?
yesterday we had a Zoom cocktail party with Joan Collins and Percy and the Fennells, the jeweler, you know, Louise Fennell and oh God, I forget about anyway, the Fennells, the jeweler, Theo Fennell, the jeweler.
Oh, yes.
And so that was marvelous because Theo is one of the funniest men ever, and that was marvelous. And prior to that, we did a birthday tea party for a friend of mine called Gillian, and that was chaos because she didn't quite get the technology right. So she kept the birthday girl fading in and out, but we had a fun time. I find these are good, but they take up a lot of time.
Yes, but that's
do you know
good,
what I
isn't
mean?
it?
I suppose it is good, but there's so many other things to do, and there's the garden, there's the clearing the garage, there's the loft to be done. Oh, it's exhausting. I know,
I quite agree. It's all of those jobs that you put off by saying, I'm busy, I've got a job to do.
Yes.
And now you've got no excuse, so you've got to get on with them.
No, I know. I mean, you mentioned my hairy chest then. I mean, I'm sugared once a month. Do you know about sugaring?
Yes.
Go on.
It's painful.
He
doesn't know.
It's marvelous. Sugaring is like where they put those pads on women. What do they call that, Anne?
What? They're waxing.
Waxing. It's like waxing, but it's not quite so. But I went initially because of my nasal hair and to have that taken out. And then he said, "Oh, should we do your chest?" And we do the chest. And then eventually do my back. I do my back. And then he said, "What about your crack?" So there are moments once a month where you can see me stark naked on all fours.
Oh, Chris.
Your producer is brilliant. Is this one of your sons?
Yes, he's looking for a picture of you on all fours at the moment.
God, if there is one, you better close your eyes now, Anne.
There is one?
Been the sauciest one we've done of our shows on YouTube, Chris, I can assure you.
But the point I was going to mention was the fact that I can't wait to go to my hairdresser, to my sugaring, and also the other thing is manicure and pedicure.
Yes.
I mean, I'm a terrible, guilty girl about all those things, and it's getting my hands are all right, but I can't get down to my feet. In fact, yesterday we bought on Amazon one of those baths. You know, yes, and Neil is going to have a go for me, which is very kind of him. So there'll be a hysterical thing tomorrow when it arrives, I can tell you.
I mean, what are you going to look like in another 4, 6 or 8 weeks' time then?
Darling, I won't be get out of the house. I'll be so big.
Chris, am I right in thinking you sat down to dinner with Frank Sinatra once upon a time?
I did. That's through my friend Joan Collins. I was in LA staying with Joan, and the king and queen of Hollywood were a couple called Barbara and Marvin Davis. He was a billionaire oil man, and they ruled Hollywood. And she rang me because she invited Joan. She rang me and said, "Christopher, we're having a 97th birthday party for George Burns. Would you like to come?" So I said, "I'd love to." So the party was in the foyer of their house, where there were 120 stars sat at 12 different tables. That was just the foyer of their house. And every table there was the Joan Collins table, there was the Jackie Collins table, there was the Sidney Poitier table, there was the Michael Caine table. And my table,
look at that picture.
Oh, I do miss Scylla. Oh,
I know, we all do.
I think everyone does.
And Shirley, she's amazing too. But anyway, so my table was myself, Shakira Kane, who I knew, Frank Sinatra, our hostess, George Burns, a woman, Sid Lawrence of Sid Lawrence and Edie Gourmet, and then the daughter of the couple whose house it was, and Dan Aykroyd. And Dan Aykroyd said to me, "Pinch yourself, Biggins. You don't often get nights like this." I called. I thought to myself, if my mother could see me now, not because of George Burns, but because of Frank Sinatra.
Yes.
And I was, I called him Sir and I called him Mr. Sinatra. And eventually he said to me, "Christopher, call me Frank." So I thought, I can't let this moment go by. I said, "Frank." about 8 years ago in London, I played Nathan Detroit and Guys and Dolls. He said, you know, Christopher, so did I. And I thought, that's it, I can die now and go to heaven. I mean, it was just wonderful. And after the dinner, he said, Christopher, will you come out into the corridor with me? I thought he was going to kill me. But in fact, he wanted a cigarette and his wife didn't like him smoking. So I had to stand guard. And we had an amazing conversation. So it was a really great, great night.
Yeah, we asked Alastair Campbell this question a few minutes ago. Who is the coolest person you've ever met? I mean, you probably already mentioned, you've mentioned Joan and Frank Sinatra. I don't know how you're going to top that. But did you ever meet anyone where you thought, I just can't believe I'm meeting this person, a real hero?
Frank Sinatra really was, I think, the
you
one
would be
and
for most
only.
people.
I mean, I remember when I was at the BBC, and they had the BBC rehearsal rooms in Northampton. And I remember there were, I think there were 7 floors, and there were 3 rehearsal rooms on each floor. And on the top, there was the canteen. Well, the canteen was always star-studded, but we didn't think about it. And I remember getting into the lift one day, and there was Morecambe and Wise. I went, hi, how are you? And they said, we're fine. And they'd chatted, and the door, they got out, the doors closed. And I felt, I didn't know that I had never met them before in my life. But because I'd seen them every day in my every weekend in my house, you know, in my parents' house, I thought I knew them. Anyway, we became good friends, and they were very, very nice. And sadly, before he died, they did ask me to go and do a Morecambe and Wise show, which I didn't do. But that was pretty wonderful. I have to say, they were fantastic. I mean,
they really were.
A great loss. I mean, I wish we had people like that now entertaining us.
Yes, absolutely.
You know,
he's my hero, Chris. Eric.
Yeah, I know. I tell you who was on the other night. There was a repeat, I think. Stanley Baxter.
Oh yes,
who was brilliant. That was so fun. I mean, he was brilliantly clever. And Tom and Bell, the producer called Bell. Hang on.
Oh, David
Bell, yes, he was our producer on Surprise, Surprise with Cilla Black. So I was,
of course, yes,
lucky enough to touched on that sort of element, because he was a wonderful showbiz producer, David Bell. That
was a great experience, wasn't it? Surprise, surprise.
It was amazing. I mean, you know, Cilla and I became really good friends, and it was I remember vividly, it was a Sunday, and I was going to have lunch at the Ivy, and suddenly the news came through. Someone rang me in the car to say she died, and I pulled over and I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed, because I couldn't believe it. It was not possible that she had died. And now looking back on it, I think that it was fabulous. And looking back on it, I think it was the best way, because she would have been a terrible patient. I mean, you know, she would have hated it not being well. So in a way, she was in her house in Spain. She was with her eldest son. She was on a balcony sunbathing. She'd obviously gone to go for a wee or to get another glass of champagne. And she unfortunately fell. And she just went like that. So it wasn't anything quick, exactly. And I think and she had a few things wrong with her. And I think it would have been awful for her to have suffered. And she's not a suffering person.
Yeah, it was a loss for us, but probably.
Yeah, you're right. But I mean, she's still with us, you know, in various things coming up. We did a program recently earlier this year. They found some footage.
I saw that. It was beautiful.
Great, wasn't it? I mean, you know,
did you see that sort of drama about her done by Sheridan Smith, was it?
Oh, fantastic.
Sensational, wasn't it?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And, you know, there were one or two things I didn't know. I didn't know that Bobby, her husband, was a singer.
No.
And the fact that she said, if you want to be my manager, no singing.
Yeah.
You know, that was, she was a strong woman. But
it worked.
But it worked. I mean, at the end of the day, and Bobby was so behind her, and he was so clever, and you know, he knew exactly which way she was going, and he used to call the shots all the time. He was amazing.
Yeah.
But look at him.
If you believe anything, you believe they're together at least again, don't you?
Sorry, what was that?
I say, if you believe anything, you at least can cling to the fact that they're together again.
Yes, and also we'll be joining them soon.
Don't say that, darling. We'll be stronger than ever, even if you are a bit hairier.
No. Sorry, Nick.
Should we call it a day now? We've really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so much for coming to talk.
Have you got another
Well, do you
virtual
want to go on?
cocktail party tonight?
Have we got
We
one
could go
tonight?
on for another hour, Chris.
No, no, we've not got one tonight, but we've got one tomorrow. It is nice to see friends, I must say.
Yeah.
And it's like seeing you two today,
Yeah.
you know. It's marvellous. Really
Well, we'll
good.
go and pour ourselves a glass of champagne now.
Yes, no, I think I might have a glass. Rosé is the drink. I tell you the other thing before you do go is that the taking out of the bottles in the morning or after 2 or 3 days, it's amazing because I have a Campari and tonic. Neil has a gin and tonic. Then we have a bottle of wine, and it's terrible.
And it's starting earlier and earlier. You find it... Give our regards to Neil, won't you?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's lovely talking to you.
It's lovely to talk to you, Chris. Thank you so much for being a light.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
shining
And
light.
see you soon.
Yeah,
See you on the
indeed.
other side, yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye, Chris.
Yeah.
Bye. There he is. Everybody does that now.
Yes. Leaving message.
We're still with you. Oh, there you've gone.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, delight.
absolutely. Wasn't it?
There's so much more you can talk to Chris about as well. Things like, I remember him in Poldark when he played a
Yes.
vicar or something, and that was ages ago, done at Pebble Mill, incidentally, where we spent many a happy hour in days gone by, the original Poldark, you know. But
Yes.
he's such a talent. He's done so many things on the stage, the serious things, you know.
I
Like,
know a lot of people
I still-
often just think of Chris Biggins and pantomime, but he's had the most incredible career, made lots of movies and everything.
and he was in I, Claudius as well. I think he
Oh,
played
he
Nero.
was good in that.
Heavyweight stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So as ever, you and I have to be grateful that people have been lucky enough to mix with and meet over the years and chat to and get to know. It's a real privilege, isn't it? Just to have a little sort of snapshot of their lives. And
It's such fun, actually, isn't it?
can you
Brilliant.
imagine when he was telling us that he sat down to dinner with Frank Sinatra? I mean, that is taking the mickey, isn't it?
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, yeah. We'll have to try and top that next week.
Yeah, well, look, the next time we meet up, it's going to be a crack of dawn tomorrow, isn't it?
Oh my goodness, I'd forgotten that. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
we're trying Good Morning Britain again tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it should be at 8:45 with Piers and Susanna, unless something happens.
Yeah, unless Boris makes a live impromptu speech.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, stay well, guys.
Yes, stay well, you as well, and I'll see you in the morning, bright and early.
Oh, look, I've forgotten. We're going to see
no,
each other
we're doing...
from BBC Midlands today.
We are. That's your programme, and you forgot it.
Yes, well.
So what time? Anyone who lives in the Midlands can watch it, obviously. Well, actually, you can watch it on nearly any platform now, can't you?
But we'll
so what
be
time
on
are we going to be on?
roughly 6:45, I would think.
Okay. All right.
BBC today. And, you know, not only on BBC One in the Midlands, but it's also Sky 959, so it can be seen anywhere around the country, or indeed across Europe.
Right. Okay. Time for a quick Bacardi and Coke before then, I think, though.
Then I'll see you in an hour. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, my dear.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Bye.